Hi everyone, we are Group 2 and today we are presenting on a challenging but essential topic for our Philosophy and Current Issues course. My name is Muhammad Ashir Ali and I am here with my teammates Muhammad Hamza, Munawar Hassan, Tayyib Hamad Bhutta and Syed Muhammad Zurez. We also like to acknowledge our lecturer Faris bin Hasbullah for his guidance on this project at Uni Razak. So let's get started. So the topic which was assigned to us was pedophilia and the title which we have assigned to our presentation is basically protection of the children, a practical review of pedophilia in Malaysian society. While I acknowledge that this is an academic assignment, we have structured it as a philosophical and policy review intended for child protection professionals. We'll be moving through an overview, a detailed analysis, and practical solutions that are specifically tailored to the Malaysian context and the society at large. So, what is pedophilia? To start, we have to acknowledge that pedophilia remains a hidden risk to children and families across our nation. It is often silenced by intense social stigma, which doesn't just impact the victims, it impacts our families and our national values. In Malaysia, cultural and social pressures frequently keep these cases from being reported or treated. For those of us working on the front lines, it is critical to look for frontline signs like withdrawal, unexplained injuries, or sudden sexualized behavior. We also must recognize that recent increases in online exposure after the advent of social media and exponential growth of the digital population have intensified these risks significantly. We have three targeted aims today to help inform policy and practice. First, we want to map pedophilic behaviors and identify their specific impacts on children. Secondly, we will analyze these issues through philosophical and ethical frameworks. And finally, we will examine solutions that align with Malaysian values, including community and clinical approaches. Our expected outcome is that practitioners will walk away with better detection skills and ethically grounded response strategies after going through this presentation. So let's talk about what are the key terms. Clarity is basically very vital when discussing this topic. So let's define the key terms to help us understand this issue in a better way. Number one, pedophilia. Pedophilia is basically a psychiatric condition involving attraction to pubescent children. It is a clinical diagnosis and not a description of actions. It doesn't automatically mean a person has been offended. It can be true and it can be false as well. Secondly, child sexual abuse. Child sexual abuse refers to any sexual act imposed on a child. This is an illegal and harmful behavior and not a clinical label. Third, grooming. Grooming is the process of building trust either online or in person, which is basically to facilitate the abuse. And finally, online sexual exploitation, which involves using internet tools or social media for coercion, sharing images, or even trafficking. So, what are the causes and issues of pedophilia in Malaysia? Why this is happening? We have identified three root categories. Number one are the psychological factors. These include internal drivers like secrecy, shame, and trauma, responses that make disclosure difficult. Second is the social and cultural silence. Community stigma and a general mistrust of reporting can stop victims from seeking support. And third one is the digital exposure. The enormity of internet combined with the power imbalance between adults and children allows exploitation to flourish. So what are the pedophilia impacts on the victims. The manifestation of this abuse in children is heartbreaking. We see psychological trauma like PTSD, withdrawal, and nightmares, which require trauma informed mental health referrals. This is also educational disruption, where falling grades or school avoidance are major red flags. Third one are the long term. These leads to emotional damage, aggression, and deep trust issues that require long term monitoring and therapeutic pathways. This impacts families and society as well. The damage extends to the whole community. It causes family breakdown and isolate caregivers. Social stigma creates a cycle of shame that prevents help seeking. Eventually, this leads to a loss of trust in institutions, where people stop using services altogether. To reduce this, practitioners must engage communities directly and ensure absolute confidentiality of the victims, so the victims can come forward with this abuse and so we can help reduce this in our society. So let's talk about the child exploitation trends over the years. If we look at the trends from the past 5 years, we see a qualitative rise in harms. The data highlights a steady increase in reports of physical, emotional, and sexual abuse, as well as neglect. It is clear that the problem is not shrinking, it is not reducing, it is not going away, rather, it is evolving, particularly in a digital space. So, let's talk about the statistical analysis and biases. When interpreting these statistics, we have to be very careful. A rise in trends might reflect reporting growth rather than just an increase in crimes. Urban areas often show higher numbers simply because they have better access to services. Casework implications. We must triangulate reports using police, health sector, and NGO data before taking the action. In rural settings, we need to prioritize contextual, qualitative follow ups to account for visibility bias. Our review of EC PAT International found that weak internet protection laws are a major gap. While we have high internet access, we have low safeguards. The recommendation here is clear: prioritize digital safety education and build partnerships with internet service stakeholders. Our roadmap for response involves four basic pillars. Number one is the education. Use age appropriate curriculum for public awareness. Number two are the law enforcements. Strengthening detection and investigation protocols can lead to reducing in these kind of crimes. Number third are the support systems which provide survivor-centered medical and legal aid. And the fourth one are the involvement of religious and community as a whole, which involves engaging faith leaders to support survivors and prevention of this kind of abuse. We must recognize that pedophilia is a threat to our national values. We should use the Rukun Nagara as our foundation for ethics. By acting together, professionals, agencies, and communities, we can strengthen detection and support survivors across all sectors. Now let's talk about the disruption harm report, which is extracted from the UNICEF website. The disruption harm report by UNICEF provides some sobering data for Malaysia. At least 4% of children aged 12 to 17 have been subjected to online exploitation, including offers of money for sexual images, sexual extortion, and non consensual image sharing. Alarmingly, children often confide in friends or siblings, while helplines and police are almost never used. However, Malaysia have strong laws like Sexual Offences Against Children Act 2017, but we need better interagency coordination and more resources, whether it is financial, human, or any kind of resources to make them effective. Offenders were more often unknown to the child. In some cases, offenders are individuals the child already knows, often an adult acquaintance, a peer in the routine, or a family member. Children who were objected to pedophilia confide in the people within their own personal networks. They, however, do not reach out to the helplines and police to seek the help. However, government has taken some actions and along with the civil society and industry as a whole. However, the weak coordination between the different agencies have been not much effective. Although existing legislation, policies and standards in Malaysia include provisions for the pedophilia, including strong provisions regarding child-friendly investigations and prosecutions, support to implement such standards across the country, and further legislative reform are needed for a comprehensive response to these kind of crimes. Now let's talk about the philosophical aspect of pedophilia. Applying the philosophy of utilitarianism, we have argued that the primary goal of our policy should be reduction of suffering. From this perspective, the greatest good is achieved by prioritizing preventative measures and early intervention programs which minimize the total harm to children and society as a whole. Deontology and virtue ethics. From a deontological standpoint, we have a moral duty to protect the vulnerable. This isn't optional, it is an obligation. This supports the move toward mandatory reporting. Meanwhile, virtue ethics focuses on the character of the community. It encourages us to cultivate virtues like empathy and responsibility in caregivers, creating a safer environment through strong moral character. Rukun Nagara, belief in God. Our national philosophy, the Rukun Nagara, also provides a framework. The first principle, belief in God, underscores a universal religious duty to protect children from harm. We should partner with faith-based organizations to deliver protection messages that resonate with Malaysian public. Rukun Nagara, the rule of law. The rule of law is our final pillar. We have the legal tools such as Child Act 2001, Sexual Offences Against Children Act 2017, etc. We recommend a cross-sector approach where the legal systems, social services, and digital platforms work together to ensure no child is left unprotected. To conclude this presentation, our group reflection is that silence is the greatest enabler of abuse. Awareness is our first layer of protection. Through this assignment, we have learned how to apply abstract philosophy to real world crises and improve our ability to evaluate sensitive data. Thank you for your attention. We are now open for any kind of questions. This concludes our assignment. Thank you.